Races 11 and 12 of the Northern European Cup for Formula Renault take place here this weekend at the Nurburgring, starting in a few minutes' time with round 11. Blue skies, but with clouds around. No clouds, however, over championship leader Lando Norris. He sits on a 24-point advantage, and he's just claimed his 7th pole position from the past 8 rounds. He's a man very much in control of proceedings, clear by nearly 0.3 of a second. Humidity 53.7%. Might be rain later today. It was forecast, but right now we're in for some dry running. Gentle breeze over the Nurburgring, just fluttering the flags, so conditions perfect for racing. We might have a slight delay to the start because we had a red flag that brought the session for the Blancpain GT Series races to a conclusion, and a crash at turn 1 being cleared up. But for the 24 cars and drivers out on the grid, all eyes on that run down to the first corner. And for the championship leader, Lando Norris, he is in the best place. You can see him on the right-hand side, the white cover, the red nose of Joseph Kaufmann Racing. It's the number 2 entry, Lando Norris, the 16-year-old British driver who is the driver leading the way. He's also won races this year in the British Formula 3 Championship, so very diverse for a 16-year-old. Alongside him on the front row is his teammate Robert Schwartzman, the Russian driver who turned 17 yesterday. So happy birthday for yesterday, Robert, and he's certainly looking for a very, very good run. Sacha Fenestraz will be starting 3rd from Tech 1 Racing, and the driver who's 3rd in the championship, Belgian racer Max de Forny, is 4th on the grid. The championship challenger, Dorian Boccolacci, is immediately behind him, and between them they have a 3rd Joseph Kaufmann Racing car, Jehan Deruvala, the Indian racer, and he is right in the mix. So the 4 runners in the championship going for gold. Lando Norris is the driver we're looking at right now. British driver, 16-year-old, bright yellow helmet, should be easy to pick out. I have a sneaking feeling, unless he makes a terrible, terrible start, but he will have that advantage still when they get down to that very, very tricky first corner, the long right-hander that leads into the Mercedes arena. But a driver been dominating this championship to sit on that 24-point advantage. There's Robert Schwartzman, 17 years old, just yesterday, so really, really advancing. And he is looking for to equal or better. His best result so far was a 2nd place at the Hungaroring. Sacha Fenestraz back for Tech 1 Racing on row 2. He's 0.4 of a second down on the pole man. And Sacha looking for his 2nd podium of the season. He finished 3rd in one of the races at Spa-Francorchamps. Max de Forny started the season very well for R-Ace GP, and looking to pick it up. He's had 3 wins so far, and in fact he won the most recent race, the 2nd of the 2 races at Assen, setting fastest lap. We mentioned Jehan Deruvala starting 5th on the grid, so 3 Joseph Kaufmann Racing runners in the top 5 positions, running the colours of India, red, orange and green on his helmet. Sorry, orange, green and white. Dorian Boccolacci, 2nd in the championship, won't be pleased at all that his Tech 1 Racing entry is down in 6th place on the grid. So he's got to be bold at the start, but not too bold, end up being foolish. So the number 9 racer, look out for that, Darren Boccolacci. Today's race, tomorrow's race, and then 3 races, the finale, first in October at Hockenheimring. Hugo de Sadelier, his teammate, will be starting 7th on the grid. Then British racer Alex Gill for Mark Burdett Motorsport will start 8th on the grid. So a whole mix of drivers, Russia, France, Germany, Belgium. If we go back to the next position, Bruno Battista from Belgium for Fortec Motorsports. Thumbs up from Bruno. Cross over the grid to Julian Falquero, French racer with R-Ace GP. Got a couple of newcomers this weekend. We'll come to those in a moment. Just looking around Julian's car. We should be going back to the 6th row of the grid. Bartolomei Mirecki from BM Racing, that's his own team. Black with the green highlights on it to pick out. And then we move across to Austrian racer Ferdinand Habsburg. Sitting there down on the outside of the 6th row. That's the side closer to the pit wall. So Fortec Motorsports. Gabriel Aubrey should be next, Tech 1 Racing. He is down on row 7. And then we'll pull across to the first of our 2 newcomers. They're both 16 years old. Marcus Armstrong, only 16 and 1 month, up from New Zealand. He's fresh out of karts. He did a GT86 Toyota race, I think possibly a couple of Formula Ford races back in New Zealand, but this 16-year-old is up from the land of the Kiwis looking to deliver. So of course his car is predominantly black, like all things in New Zealand. James Allen also up from down under for JD Motorsport, starting on row 8 from Australia. And the second newcomer, immediately behind the other newcomer, another 16-year-old, Alexander Vartanyan. He's done a couple of Formula 4 races, so these young guns coming fresh into this Formula Renault NEC series and looking to see if they can deliver against the gold standard. And at the moment, as we look back at Alexei Korniev, that gold standard is being set by Lando Norris, who is leading the championship by 24 points. So Russian racer Alexei Korniev behind his compatriots Alexander Vartanyan and Enrique Chavez from Portugal. AVF by Adrian Valles is his team. Getting down towards the final 3 rows of the grid now. We have 24 cars here at the Nurburgring. And enjoying his first home race, Lawrence Hoare. So he's delighted to be racing in front of a home crowd. And he'll be able to round out the season also in Germany, of course, with a 3-race finale at the Hockenheimring. Nesesi Sakyan, yet another Russian racer, AVF by his teammate to Chavez. He's immediately behind him on the grid, starting down on the outside of row 10. And then we'll move across to KEO Racing and Kasper Larsen. They're going to be racing GTs in future. So Kasper and the Danish team looking to move over, but he's got a lot to do this weekend at the Nürburgring. Sitting, gathering his thoughts in the cockpit, but he's down on row 11, along with Finlay Hutchison, British racer, Mark Burdett Motorsport. And then we will move across to the final row of the grid as we move away from Finlay Hutchison, the Scottish Saltire, the Scottish flag, the blue flag with the white diagonal cross. Julia Pankiewicz, Polish racer, third of the entries from AVF by Adrian Valles. And then we'll get to a driver who I think, because he set no time at all, ought to be working his way up the order. And it's one of the Fortec Motorsports entries, and it's Nikita Trotsky. So he has an awful lot to do after problems in qualifying. So look out for the number 7, making a charge from the back of the field. How high he can go, only time will tell. His best result so far this season was actually in the opening round, 2nd place in the first of the 2 races at Monza. Since then, the form has rather fallen away. In fact, the last time he was in the top 10 was also at Monza, finished 6th in the 2nd race. And things not been going too well. 2 10th places, actually, I beg his pardon, last time out at Assen. But he wants a result that has a single-digit number rather than twin digits for his finishing position. But the real question on this sunny day at the Nürburgring as we're waiting for the start of the race, final formation lap, is can anybody put one over Lando Norris? Will Robert Schwartzman celebrate his best result of the season by taking a win? Can he work his way just the day after his 17th birthday down the inside into turn 1 to pull ahead of Lando Norris? Or will the challenge come from the regular championship challengers, Max Stefani, Dorian Boccolacci and Jehan Daruvala, who are starting respectively 5th and 6th. So the rows 2 and 3 are full of the championship challengers, with Sasha Fenestraz, who's starting 3rd, in among the mix. As we work our way up to the front, looking towards Lando Norris, there he is, sitting all alone on pole position, waiting for the delayed countdown to the start. But so far this season, the young British 16-year-old racer has got 5 wins in the NEC Formula Renault Series. He didn't start the opening pair, one of the pair of races at the Silverstone, his home race, so he could have possibly picked up more points. So he's a driver really in control at the moment, but getting yet another pole position, his 7th from 8 races. Will that be indicative that a win will follow? As you can see, the bright blue sky is starting to be clouded, and clouds are getting darker. We saw earlier the humidity had risen through the morning to nearly 54% when we saw that graphic about 10 minutes ago. Looks as though it's still rising. It's a warm day. Certainly dark clouds are gathering. Maybe they're gathering over everybody bar Lando Norris, because sitting on that 24-point championship lead, he knows he's in the best place to be. But with 30 points for a win, just take one retirement and let one of your championship rivals take victory, and the whole vision of the championship will be changed comprehensively. But right now, Lando Norris isn't thinking any negative thoughts. He's thinking positive thoughts, sitting there on pole, for Joseph Kaufmann Racing, but we haven't had signal yet as to when how long the delay will be. They're apparently still fixing the tyre wall down at turn 1, where we had a car go off during the previous session on the circuit. So long minutes. Seconds feel like minutes, minutes feel like hours, says the saying. But right now the drivers, it's a chance for them to learn yet more how to handle the pressure situation as they sit out on the grid waiting for this, the 11th of the 15 rounds of the Formula Renault Northern European Cup. As they sit there, the sunshine is certainly deserting them. Most of their crews are deserting them, leaving these young racers with just one friendly face to talk to out there on the grid. You can see the Segway travelling around in front of, there's the barrier. It just looks like that's about to be completed. They're putting the final outer coating on those tyres. You can see our cameraman standing on his Segway in front. There's a 3-minute board to be waved at some point soon. We get those fabulous shots on the grid of the Formula Renault NEC racers with a cameraman on a Segway, multi-skilled, keeping it in focus while rotating around the cars. You saw he's on the front right-hand corner in front of Lando Norris. That's why you get such a brilliant ride down the grid as we introduce those 24 cars and their drivers. And here goes Mike on his Segway, giving us pictures with a bit of movement. Hopefully the pictures with the real movement when the cars go racing will be with you very soon indeed. But right now there is the British pole sitter, Lando Norris, alongside 17-year-old Russian Robert Schwartzman, sitting on the front row alongside Norris. Alongside, but of course, as it's a staggered grid, slightly to the back. Look over to the pit wall. There is the blue nose of his Joseph Kaufmann Racing teammate. It's a lockout for Joseph Kaufmann Racing on the front row. And here is Robert Schwartzman, 17-year-old yesterday. That was his birthday. So big day for him here at the Nurburgring. Big race weekend, of course. We have the second of the 2 races tomorrow. Back on the second row, we're looking at Sasha Fenestraz from Tech 1 Racing. Big orange flash. Then we go to the predominantly blue car. As we're told, 3 minutes until the start of the formation lap. That's Max Deforny sitting third in the championship. He has 173 points. Lando Norris has 211. So as you can imagine, that is quite a gap. But 30 points for a win, 24, 20, and then 17, 16, 15, 14 backwards. The key is the difference, the 6 points difference between first and second. Darian Boccolacci, championship challenger. He's second place in the series, 187 points. He's 24 points down on Lando Norris. He has to just concentrate on getting as many points as he can in every one of the remaining races, and really with a 6-point advantage for victory, he's got to be sure he picks off every win for the remainder of the season. With Lando Norris coming second or lower, that's his chance. But right now, with Lando Norris being the driver very much in control, with almost all the pole positions, 7 out of the last 8 rounds, it's a tall order for the challengers. Number 6, again, getting a second look at the Brazilian racer, Bruno Batista. He's starting on the quicker side of the 5th row, qualified almost exactly a second down on Lando Norris. Then we can look at Julian Falqueiro, second best place runner from our Ace GP, along with his teammate Max Deforny, who starts 4th. Falqueiro, French racer. Activity on the grid, but not that much. They've been shown the 3-minute board. At least they now know they're into that final countdown before the formation lap. Lando Norris, number 2, sitting on pole position, as has become his wont. Final handshake, but you feel the crew are fairly confident by this stage in the season. He might only be 16-year-old, but he knows what he's doing. Now it's 1 minute to the start of the formation lap, so the cars will be left bare, and they will go round one more time and come round to take the start of the race. Now's the time when the grid largely gets cleared of all extraneous people, and it's eyes on what happens around, not this lap, but the following lap. All the cars, of course, with their obligatory rear lights on. Fire the engines up. As long as the engines are fired up, the mechanics reach the cars will take their little portable batteries with them and escape from the grid. They'll find the closest hole in the pit wall, the closest gate, or in some cases just climb up through the first gap they reach. But now we can see the cars, 24 cars sitting down on the grid, ready to go out and show what they can do. Lando Norris on pole, Robert Schwartzman, the 17-year-old Russian. In fact, he's old in comparison. Lando Norris is still 16. Sasha Fenestraz, second row with Max Deforny, Johan Daruvala, and fellow championship challenger Dorian Boccolacci down on row 3. And look 2, don't forget the car back of the grid, left-hand side of your screen, number 7, Nikita Troitsky, no time in qualifying. He's sure to pick his way up the order, but how far he can get, how hard does he push, how soon, we will see. But now we see the cars plain for the first time, no people around them. Safety car sitting in the background, lights flashing, and it is getting darker and darker here at the Nurburgring. Just waiting for the cars to go off on their final formation lap, and so they do. Looks everyone's getting away cleanly, looking all the way back to the tail of the grid, just level with my commentary box. And the last 2 cars get going, with Nikita Troitsky bringing up the rear, 24th position as they snake their way around the circuit, getting heat into their tyres. So round they go, 24 runners here at the Nürburgring. Another race tomorrow, and then 3 at the final round at Hockenheim on the 1st and 2nd of October. So the season has suddenly got very, very busy indeed. And the driver who's risen to the top is Lando Norris. He's picked up a number of wins, and it really has counted. So here is that starting grid with Josef Kaufmann lower on the screen. He's in his cars 1st and 2nd on the grid with Lando Norris and Robert Schwarzman, then Sasha Fenestraz and Max de Forny. De Forny challenging for the championship, along with Daruvala and Boccolacci. So the cars starting 4th, 5th and 6th are the 3 runners who can really take a tilt at Lando Norris. De Sadelier, Hugo de Sadelier, Alex Gill on row 4. Row 5 is Bruno Battista and Julian Falqueiro. Then we go back to Bartolomei Marecki and Ferdinand Habsburg on row 6. Row 7 is Gabriel Aubry and newcomer from New Zealand, Marcus Armstrong, just 16 years old. James Allen, another 16-year-old newcomer, Alexander Vartanyan from Russia. Then Alexei Korniev, Enrique Chavez on row number 9. Row 10, home race, Lawrence Hoare, hoping to move up for Duck Motorsport, and Nurses Isakian. Then Kasper Larsen from Denmark and Mark Burdett Motorsports, Finley Hutchison, then Julia Pankiewicz, and look out for Nikita Troitsky in number 7. No time in qualifying, a lot of time to make up in the race. So coming back up the hill on this, the final formation lap. Of course, the drivers then drop into the dip and just get a feel for the circuit. There was a bit of oil put down earlier that was cleaned up down during the Blancpain GT Series free practice session, but always the drivers have to just check and see if anything has changed. They know the sky is getting darker, and then they have to run through the Ad Van Bogen, that's the kink in the background, and up to the chicane, and let's hope they all keep it clear through that left-right uphill flick. Great shot looking down over the Nürburgring and the Eiffel Forest behind, as Lando Norris leads around from Robert Schwarzman, Sasha Fenestraz, Max de Forny, Johan Daruvala and Dorian Boccolacci. So conditions seem fine, if somewhat cloudier than they were earlier. And let's keep an eye too on how the newcomers get on. Marcus Armstrong starting from 14th and Alexander Vartanyan from 16th. Don't forget, precious little car racing experience for either. They're both only just 16. They both had birthdays in July. Big, big moment for them as they step up the motor racing ladder. And that's not the way to do it. Right down towards the tail of the field, number 28, that's Finley Hutchison, the Scottish racer, starting from the outside of the 11th and penultimate row. Well, he's got it out of his system. Doesn't look as though there's too much dirt on his tyres, but that's, let's say, reinforced the requirement for intense concentration. That, however, was the formation lap. The lap that follows is going to be the absolutely crucial one. The first lap, racing lap of the race. Right-hand side of your screen, championship leader Lando Norris, left-hand side Robert Schwarzman when we get the front-on shot. 24 cars all on the grid. Everyone has made it back around the formation lap. Wave green flags, that means we are ready to throw the starting lights on the gantry. Who's going to get the best start? Don't forget, very, very tricky first corner. Will it be Norris on the right? Tidy start from him. Dreadful start from Sasha Fenestraz. The championship challengers behind will say thank you very much indeed. But looking to come down the inside, Robert Schwarzman from the outside of the front row dives up the inside of Lando Norris. Lando just being careful going around the outside. Will they touch? No, Lando back in second place. So 17 yesterday, Robert Schwarzman, young Russian racer, takes the lead of the race. And being very careful indeed, but bodywork was something flying in the air at the back of the pack. Lando Norris, rather than taking a risk, has slotted into second place. So he thought he might get away at the start of the race. Robert Schwarzman, a driver on the up, yet to win a race in the Formula Renault NEC, but this is the best way to do it, taking the lead at the outset of the race. It looked as though the initial start from Norris was good enough to get out front and stay out front. Those at the back using all the track and that little bit more, but around the opening sequence of corners, they've gone through turns 5 and 6. Now they're diving down the hill. Everybody but one has made it through, and for AVF by Adrian Valles, one of their 3 cars out of the race, locking up down into Dunlop Care. Oh, that looks very, very tight indeed, down into that hairpin at the bottom of the hill. It's still Robert Schwarzman leading the race, chased by a pole starter, Lando Norris, and behind. Further back, 2 abreast is the order of the day, and then as they come up the climb, up the circuit, they have to pick their line as they go up towards Ravenel Curve, Bilstein Curve, then they'll start dropping down the hill. Lots of dust being kicked up at the back as drivers try and make their way forward. Just looking as though 77 has then got a loose front wing. It looks as though it's had a bit of a tug. That's Lawrence Hoare, determined to impress well on home ground. But out front, it's Robert Schwarzman leading the way from Lando Norris, Max Deforny, Jehan Daruva, Darian Boccolacci. So the driver who's second in the championship is down in 5th position. But they were all aided by a dreadful start for Sash Fenestraz. So just coming up towards the completion of the lap through the chicane for the first time. Will they all make it through without contact? And hats off, ladies and gentlemen, they've driven that very well indeed. And no damage done as they go around to complete the opening lap. It's Robert Schwarzman, Lando Norris, first 3 starting to pull clear. Max Deforny, Jehan Daruva, Dorian Boccolacci, Sacha Fenestraz waved yellow flags. That's for the AVF runner who was off at the bottom of the hill. Drivers have all slowed down almost to a standstill on the start finish straight. Just looking out of my commentary box to see why they've slowed that much. Now the safety car has come out. Okay, just waiting for that signal to come on to add with the yellow flags. So there's a safety car waiting to catch the runners as they snake out of the Mercedes arena. So just remember, it was Robert Schwarzman who took the lead. Great start to this race. Got ahead of Lando Norris. It looks as though he'd done nothing wrong. There is Schwarzman. He's seen. He's slowed down. He's weaving to keep the heat in his tyres. Max Deforny started the race 3rd in the championship, running 3rd in the race. And then Jehan Daruvala and the championship challenger, Dorian Boccolacci, started 6th. Thanks actually to his teammate, Sacha Fenestraz, getting too much wheel spin and not getting away well. He's been elevated to 5th place ahead of Fenestraz. That's 1 place closer to the front. And 1 driver fewer between he and the man he's tilting after, which is Lando Norris, running 2nd place. But for Robert Schwarzman, what a start down the inside. So the spinner down at the Dunlop Kercher. And it's Julia Pankovic was the first car we saw off, and now we're looking at number 24, which is Nursas Isakian. That's the car down at the hairpin. Sitting across the circuit, unable to move, waiting to be towed away by that white course vehicle after all the other runners have gone past. You see marks of where he's been off the circuit and contact with the sideball of his left rear tyre, the tyre on the right-hand side of your screen. Safety car is out. So for Robert Schwarzman, he converted the outside of the front row to get past pole position starter Lando Norris, his own teammate. They were very careful with each other around the opening corner because turn 1 just doubles back on itself, and many a single-seater race has been hampered by a driver having his front wing tweaked, bent out of line on the first corner of a race. And as you can see, we've still got, with the safety car now assuming the lead at the head of the pack, so we've got 20-odd minutes of racing, and I don't think it should be too long until both of the cars. There's Nursas Isakian, his entry being pulled away from down at the Dunlop Kera. So in fact, he and his teammate, Julia Pankovic, were the 2 who tumbled, so not a great opening lap. 2 of the 3 cars from AVF out of the race, leaving just Enrico Chavez, who, for your interest, is up in 15th place. But for Nursas Isakian, a short race and not a sweet race. Being towed clear, and they'll take his car to the first access point to the circuit and pull it. Oh, it's just behind that barrier there, so they can tuck it away just on the exit of the Dunlop Kera, just as the field came around. So the drivers had a delayed start. They sat on the grid and they had to keep their focus, and now they're having to keep their focus behind another situation, which is the situation of having a safety car. And you can see the field bunching up behind, trying to not be too far behind the next rival up the line for when we get to the restart. But for AVF, by Adrian Valles Racing, this safety car is, well, it's essential while their 2 cars were cleaned up. But Julia Pankovic and Nursas Isakian out of the race. But for Robert Schwarzman, he must be feeling very pleased with himself, converting the outside of the front row into a lead at the opening corner. He was on the right-hand side of the track as they ran down. From driver's point of view, he kept it there, was up the inside, and there was no chance for Lando Norris to pull back across him. And So for Schwarzman, his best result, as I said, second place in the second of 2 races at Hungaroring back in June. Since then, he's had a 6th and 8th over the results at Spa and 2 7ths last time out in Holland at Assen. But he wants the podium, but far more than that as a birthday present, a 17th birthday present, delayed by a day. That first win at this level would be a massive one for him, but you can be sure that his teammate Lando Norris, who's behind him, is very, very keen indeed. He's sitting on a 24-point championship lead, but 30 points of victory. And that's what he really wants, but he does know that all of his 3 championship challengers are behind him, so whatever happens, if he stays ahead of them, he will increase his championship lead. And that will leave 4 races of the Formula Renault NEC Championship to run. This is the fifth last one of the season. Safety car in at the end of this lap. For all the drivers paying attention, sticking close to the car ahead of them. Certainly Lando Norris is right under the rear wing of Robert Schwarzman, but Max Stefani even closer in 3rd place. He is shadowing every move. You can hardly see the blue card running 3rd in the line behind the red car with the white car with the red nose of Lando Norris, right through the chicane, and off they go. The safety car has pulled in and nailing it at the front of the field. Robert Schwarzman accelerating hard up to the final corner. Who's going to get the better exit from this corner and therefore run down the straight? Who's going to run too wide? They all go very, very similar line out around the final corner. In fact, 4th place runner didn't go so wide. Johan de Ruvela possibly slightly slower onto the straight according to that. Now Robert Schwarzman covers the inside line, hits a visor tear-off strip, forcing Lando Norris to look around the outside. Will they clash? No, Norris is wide enough not to bend his wing. Max Stefani wasn't close enough to make a challenge in 3rd place. Robert Schwarzman hangs on that restart to the lead of the race. Max Stefani trying to get in close in 3rd place, braking very, very deeply into the corner, but so did Lando Norris. And looking back behind them, Johan de Ruvela and Dorian Boccolacci, 4th and 5th. They're both still in the championship hunt, but as long as Norris is up ahead of them, they are losing ground to him. And after this race, there's 1 more race tomorrow, then 3 on the first weekend of October at Hockenheim. So the Formula Renault NEC runners almost nose to tail as they dip around the circuit. We lost 2 on the opening lap. We've had the safety car period. Now it's full and proper racing. And I'll keep an eye for Nikita Troitsky. He started right at the back after setting no time in qualifying. Still down. In fact, he's only passed Finlay Hutchison thus far. A number of drivers locking up down into Dunlop Kara. But this time they all get around the hairpin at the bottom of the hill. Robert Schwarzman still leading. And I notice in 17th and 18th position are 2 newcomers, our 16-year-olds. We have Marcus Armstrong up from New Zealand in 16th and Alexander Vartanyan, in 17th, and Vartanyan from Russia in 18th position, getting a chance to check each other out. Now what we're seeing is that's the middle order of the race. I suddenly thought we'd had a change of lead at the very, very front. Nose to tail stuff. Coming back up the hill through the chicane, the first 3 running in the order they were before. It's still Robert Schwarzman leading the way. Lando Norris, Max Stefani, a bit of a gap back to Johan de Ruvela, and then come 2 runners from RACE GP. Dorian Boccolacci, 5th place, challenging for the championship, but not from there he isn't. And then Sasha Fenestraz running in 6th. So no changes of place in the top order, with the exception of Alex Gill gaining a place. And he's moved past Hugo de Sadalier up into 7th. So good place gained by the British driver. The gap between 1st and 2nd, 0.6 of a second on the start-finish line, much less than that as Lando Norris closed in under braking, and then of course the car ahead accelerated the gap out to 0.6 or so again. Robert Schwarzman leading the way, and I must say driving very, very well indeed. Lando Norris has been the gold standard in this championship, particularly in the more recent rounds, and he's starting to hunt him down. Quarter of an hour remaining. White car going across your screen was newcomer Marcus Armstrong up from New Zealand. It's great the way drivers can step literally straight out of cars into these carts into these slicks and wings races and get onto the pace, but a lot to learn about how to keep your tyres sweet. And now we can see some place changing at the back end of the field. That's probably Nikita Troitsky at the tail end. Let's see, is it number 7? Can't quite make out the number, but he's gained another position. He's gone past Casper Larsen up into 20th place. So he's gaining, but not as fast as he would like. The gap between 1st and 2nd still sticking at half a second. And Norris 0.5 5:42. But what's happened in this lap, and they're just starting to ease clear of Max Deforny, which will not please the Belgian racer from RACE GP. He wants to stay right on the tail of Lando Norris. Clearly a problem for Finlay Hutchison. He's nearly 40 seconds down on the race leader. He's had some mishap. Don't forget he went off the circuit on the formation lap right at the end, so I don't know if it's a car problem or something untoward. Could have been contact. First two come past again. What's the gap between them? Almost identical. It was 0.606 of a second last time around, 0.633. So you could say that Robert Schwarzman is pulling clear, but when you're dealing with tenths of a second, as the field almost nose to tail powers past down through turns 1 and 2, all looking tidy. You can see the gradient change as they come out of turn 1. That's the corner in the background. All several runners towards the tail of the field, including Enrique Chavez running somewhat wide down there before rejoining the circuit. Far more gradient change than you realise. This is turn 3, doubling almost immediately back onto itself in turn 4. Another place gained by Nikita Troitsky from the back, up to 19th place. Small victories, but they're all victories. His next target, fellow Russian Alexander Vartanyan. So he's got the two brand new Formula Renault races. Marcus Armstrong, Alexander Vartanyan are his next two targets. And there they were, the middle of that pack, the white car. Ahead of the two cars, the blue noses. That is Armstrong. Behind him is Vartanyan. Behind him, another blue nose car right on his tail, is Nikita Troitsky. The two ones with the red flashes, the SMP Racing flashes, are Vartanyan and Troitsky. Up front though, going very, very well indeed for Robert Schwarzman. Just set the fastest first sector of the lap of anyone. Another tenth of a second gained on Lando Norris. So we expected that Norris would hunt him down. But the two of them are pulling ever further clear. Now it's 2 seconds between the leader and Max Deforny in third place. Not so long ago, it was under a second. All looking very sensible indeed. Just had a shot on Julian Falqueira running around in 10th place. Chasing hard on Bruno Batista in the darker car up ahead of him. Bruno Batista up from Brazil. And right behind them in number 62 is Ferdinand Habsburg. They're all fighting over 9th, 10th and 11th position, as though they're fighting over the lead of the race. The gap is still under 7/10 of a second, but little hundredths of a second are being gained all the time by Schwarzman. He's now 0.698 of a second. I know I'm talking about a tenth of a second or so, not even that, gained in the past 2 laps, but just shows how tight it is at the front. So Julian Falqueira in number 16 fights for 9th place. A lock up ahead of him from Bruno Batista. Now Batista's really on the edge. There go our first trio. There's Max Deforny in third, chased hard by Johan de Ruvela, who seems to be settling down and getting a little bit closer to him. Third and fourth, very, very important battle. They're both in the championship hunt, but they're both still behind Lando Norris, leading the race, not leading the race, second in the race, leading them in the race and leading them in the championship. His championship advantage will be extended if he can come home in second place. Drivers braking as deeply as they can in that battle over 9th place into the hairpin at the bottom, with Ferdinand Habsburg in 62 on the tail of that trio. More than 10 minutes remaining in the race. Looking at number 12, pushing on very hard indeed. That's Gabriel Aubrey. He is down in 13th position. One little slip up and you can lose a whole cluster of places. That's what these drivers know. They have to keep as much momentum in these single-seaters as they can. They're not washed away with a whole lot of power to play with. They've just got to keep it clean. It's a lesson that will carry them up the racing order. Keep it clean, keep your tyres sweet, keep pressing on. But you've got to know when to make a dive for an attack. And at the moment, 62, Ferdinand Habsburg, 1, 2. He's the third driver in that group. Chasing after Julian Falqueira. He's got to choose his moment when he's going to try and make that move. So coming out of the chicane up to the final corner, very close indeed. Gap between first and second is out to 0.86 of a second. Robert Schwarzman is pulling clear. Then the gap between Lando Norris in second and Max Deforny in third is exactly 1.5 seconds, and another second back to Johan de Ruvela. Boccolacci a further second back. 5 seconds cover the top 5, but still Schwarzman ahead of Norris, Deforny, de Ruvela, Boccolacci. So 4 of those runners, every runner bar the leader, are in the championship hunt. Schwarzman somewhat further down the championship order. He's back in 6th. He could still take the championship, but it would take an extraordinary string of circumstances. But what he's going to do is very much cement 5th place in the championship, because the next driver ahead of him is Alex Gill, but Gill is 6 places behind him in the race. So that order will be changing in the championship table by the time we get to lunchtime here at the Nurburgring. This is the first of their 2 races in the penultimate round of the Formula Renault Northern European Cup, and it's very, very tight at the top, but it seems at the moment, with just under 9 minutes remaining, that Robert Schwarzman could be heading for his first win at this level. And still in the battle of the newcomers, the rookies, you can see 17th place is held down by Alexander Vartanyan, but up in 6th place from New Zealand, Marcus Armstrong is clear of him by a second and a half, and running very solidly. And running not that far, just over a second behind the number 21 entry of Henrique Chaves, the Portuguese racer. Chaves started behind him, 2 rows behind him on the grid, so it was a good start by Chaves. Doing that opening lap sort out, picked his way up the order. Car number 11, that's Sasha Fenestraz, started 3rd, will be kicking himself, made a terrible, terrible start, lost immediately. He turned 3rd place into 6th place, and the driver ahead of him, his teammate from Tech 1 Racing, Dorian Boccolacci, said thank you very much indeed, because that gained him at least 1 position in his chase after Lando Norris. But the chase today isn't after Lando Norris out on the circuit, it's after Robert Schwarzman. In fact, he's lost a 1/10 of a second. He's now 0.766 of a second clear of Lando Norris. But in turn, Lando Norris very equal with Max Deforny. Not much is being gained or lost in the top 6. Who's going to make a mistake? Well, anyone won't make a mistake. Oh, a little lock up there from number 11, Sasha Fenestraz, so the mistakes are there to be made. Didn't lose him too much, but his tyres won't be as sweet. Now, to my eye, someone's kicked up the dust in the background, running that little bit wide out of turn 3. It looks as though Lando Norris is starting to just eke that little bit closer to our race leader. Remember the gap on the start-finish line, 0.766 of a second. Schwarzman leading Norris. Waiting for the next interval to find out. It's come well. The first sector of the lap, a 1/10 of a second has been taken out of that, so my eyes do not deceive me, thank goodness. Down the hill they go. The fastest lap of the race so far was set last time around, in fact by the 3rd place driver, and that is Max Deforny. Number 12, Gabriel Aubrey, we've talked about him, down in 13th place, but very, very tight. His target, the car immediately ahead, of course, which is Bartłomiej Mirecki, Polish racer, who started on the 6th row and is still in roughly that same position. Equivalent position. Well, that looked a little bit far back to make a lunge, and so it proved. Schwarzman and Norris, Deforny, Daruvala, Boccolacci, Fenestraz. That's the order as it was at the end of the opening lap. The gaps have opened, they've closed down a little bit, and certainly seem to be closing down now. Coming to the final corner of lap number 9. The gap last time, 0.766 of a second. It looks like it's come down by 2/10. Yes, it has, 0.545 of a second. So, with the fastest lap of the race so far, and with just under 6 minutes still on the clock, Lando Norris is getting closer and closer, but we're talking about 1/10 of a second. But is there anywhere he's seen where he can find an advantage? Use an extra bit of track, try and get more of a slingshot out of the corner to carry out of turn 1 through the long, double left-handers, if you will. Turn 2, turn 3, both left-handers. Turn 2, less tight than turn 3. You can see the nose wing bouncing as Norris came down off the curbing. Looks as though Schwarzman's actually eked out a little bit of an advantage through the Mercedes arena. Now, over that slight incline, down you start dropping to turn 5, and it's the whole descent. 5 and 6 come close together. 6 is the Ford Curva. Then down the hill they go. That little kink on the exit always catches people out, because turn 6 far sharper than people think, until they find themselves off the line, and then down the hill they go to the Dunlop Curve. I would say the opening part of the lap has been driven better by our race leader, Robert Schwarzman, than it has from Lando Norris, who went that little bit wide out of turn 1. Seems to be paying the price. Couldn't pick Schwarzman off, closed the gap down. It looks as he's lost about a 1/3 of a second with that little moment down on the lap. First part of the lap, another 10th gained by Schwarzman, therefore a 10th lost by Lando Norris. What's happening behind? The order staying very much the same. We haven't talked too much about the drivers behind Sasha Fenestraz, so it's Alex Gill in 7th. Then we go to car number 10, Hugo de Sadelier, 8th, and the top 10 completed by Bruno Battista in 9th, and Ferdinand Habsburg in 10th place, who's recently got past Julian Falqueiro, so the Austrian racer making a gain. The 10th that was lost by Lando Norris has been regained, and now into the chicane. He's closed right up. The first sector went to the Russian leader who's leading the race, Robert Schwarzman. The second sector to Lando Norris, got so close, almost clipped Schwarzman's rear into the chicane. Got to be super close, you don't damage the front wing of the car. And it looks as though the lap has come out exactly equal. So in terms of time, 0.569. What's the difference between them? Lando Norris gained 0.021 of a second, but as I said, getting close is one thing. It looks so Schwarzman is leaving no doors open for him. He is, I'm sure he'd love to help his his teammates' championship chances, but he'd really far rather cap his birthday weekend with his first win in the Formula Renault Northern European Cup, and he does seem at the moment to have the measure of Lando Norris. Norris doesn't need to take any risks. I'm talking of risks, plenty happening down towards the tail of the field. Braking, well, you've got to do your braking before the corner, so I'm afraid running too deep. And was that Marcus Armstrong? Not entirely sure, just waiting to get close enough on the car, but Enrique Chatno, whoever's fighting with Chavez is up. No, it should be Armstrong. They were very, very close together. So it's the, 21, it is Hugo Chavez, and 15 behind him, particularly after that lunge, is Marcus Armstrong. But good to see the New Zealand rookie having a go. That's what we ask. Have a look, see what you can find. And you can see in the last few laps, he's really hauled in onto the tail of Enrique Chavez. Now he's got to show that he's learnt enough in the 10 laps so far that he's ready to have a move to go for an overtake. But getting close is one thing. Looks though Chavez, with far more experience, has done enough. But this is the sort of moment, maybe next time around, down into the hairpin. You can see Marcus Armstrong braking later and later. You can have a few dummy goes, but the clock is ticking down till the checkered flag will come out, and certainly Chavez under huge pressure now. He knows that the driver is not behind him. Marcus Armstrong has not raced Formula Renault before, but you wouldn't know it from the way that Armstrong is flying. The Kiwi looks to the outside as they go up the hill. No space there, but he's going to try and brave it out around the outside. It could be a case of diminishing returns, and so it proved, but congratulations for trying. You've got to do everything you can to get past, and that so nearly worked. But by the time they got to the Bilstein curve to turn right, drop down the hill, Armstrong realised he had to come off the power, get fully back on the circuit and tuck in. Might be the battle for 15th place, but at this point it would be like a victory in the race for Armstrong to get past, because we know he can lap these cars quickly. He's shown that already. Qualified very promisingly on the 7th row against drivers who've been racing these all season. Now he's showing he can race well, but it looks though Enrique Chavez is very much on top. But the lead battle though, overall, that's the battle for 15th, the battle for the lead, down to 0.4 of a second. Lando Norris getting closer and closer to Robert Schwarzman, but Schwarzman just making no mistakes at all. A fantastic drive from the young Russian, and again using all the circuit and that little bit more out of turn 4. Lando Norris using the tricks of the trade as he closes in on Robert Schwarzman. As you can see, he gained 0.2 of a second, and then last time around he gained 1/10 of a second. But where is the chink in Schwarzman's armour? They've now got 2 and a bit seconds clear of Max Deforny, so it looks as though they're safe just to fight each other. And it's been quite a while since Deforny, the Belgian racer, was close enough to give any trouble at all to Lando Norris. So Norris has had his eyes firmly fixed on the rear of Robert Schwarzman, looking for weaknesses, and really there don't appear to be any. I think on outright pace, Lando Norris is that little bit faster, but he's behind Schwarzman and he cannot find a way to go ahead. He jinks left, he jinks right. He's just trying to unsettle Schwarzman into the final minute of this race, round the back part of the circuit. And down the hill they go, down towards that fast king. They've been Advan Bogan coming up, right-hand king, and they start climbing the hill towards the chicane, and this time Norris not as close as he has been before as they come up to the left-right flick on the ascent. Doesn't want to take a risk, and the man who does want to take a risk, he tried it there last time around, is Marcus Armstrong. He's made that move stick. He was put pretty much almost on the grass last time around by Enrique Chavez. Fair, robust, and this time around a Kiwi. Congratulations, 16-year-old talent arriving on the scene and doing a very, very strong job indeed. And now Chavez has got number 17 behind him, so it's Alexei Korniev. So Korniev has got ahead, Troitsky behind. In fact, Vartanyan, the other rookie, has dropped down the order to 20th place. We're on the final lap of the race. Gap between first and second last time around was 0.566 of a second. Down through turn 1 go the front runners. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Schwarzman for his first win? Is it going to be a championship boosting victory for the driver behind in the yellow helmet? That's Lando Norris, super, super close. Max Deforny could do nothing about them behind. There are 30 points for a win. There are 24 for second, 20 for third. So for De Forny, he'll see his points disadvantage, which is currently 38 points, go out to 42 points to championship leader Lando Norris, who again so late and so locked up down into the Dunlop hairpin, and I think that's cost him the half car length he needed, the car length he needed to get close enough to take any challenge to our race leader Robert Schwarzman. Schwarzman will know that. He'll know that the car behind him, his teammate Lando Norris, is that little bit further back. They come up to the top of the hill before they get to Bilstein. That's the Ravenel curve. Now they get into the Bilstein curve. Look, 3 car lengths between them. It looks so Robert Schwarzman has done enough. He's got to concentrate. This is an easy part of the circuit. It's flat out down the hill. A kink to the right through the Advenbogen, and then a climb to the Vidal chicane. But what he will care about is the fact that Lando Norris has been way closer to him at the chicane and hasn't managed to get past. This time he puts the brakes on, he closes to within half a car length, faults it off the curves, but the British driver brings it down to terra firma with all 4 wheels on the tarmac. Robert Schwarzman just has to go around the final corner. Lando Norris looks on the inside. Was that a serious dive or not? But come what may, it hasn't worked. So it's a 1-2 for Joseph Kaufmann, but it's a victory the day after his 17th birthday for Robert Schwarzman. Congratulations to the young Russian. In fact, I'll tell you what, Lando Norris will be perfectly happy with 2nd place. Max De Forny 3rd. Johan de Ruvela in 4th, Dorian Boccolacci and Sasha Fenestraz, as they have been since the opening lap of the race. Poor start by Fenestraz, started 3rd. He's fallen back down the order, and behind them, Alex Gill. And then number 10, Hugo de Sadalier is 8th, Bruno Batista 9th, Ferdinand Habsburg 10th, and our young rookie from New Zealand just crosses the finishing line there. The white car ahead of the orange car. Chavez is in 16th place, but for Marcus Armstrong, we have I thought we had a spinner. Marcus Armstrong up from New Zealand on his debut, 15th place, very creditable indeed, and Alexander Vartanyan will be coming home in 20th, the other rookie. But for Robert Schwarzman, that is victory, his first victory in the Formula Renault Northern European Cup, and for the driver who chased him home, his teammate Lando Norris, no victory, but yet more advantage gained in his battle ahead of Dorian Boccolacci, Max De Forny and Johan de Ruvela. It's going to be very tight indeed for the 3 drivers behind. Boccolacci lost ground both to De Forny, who finished 3rd, and de Ruvela, who finished 4th. But it's the biggest difference in points is the gap between 1st and 2nd. If you can get the 30 points for a win versus the 24 for 2nd, that is how you really start to make strides. That is how Lando Norris has made his strides in this championship battle. So, an exciting race, a close race, and here is the classification after 13 laps. Just 0.4 of a second was the gap between Lando Norris and first-time race winner Robert Schwarzman. Max De Forny, championship challenger, still 2.2 seconds further back. Johan de Ruvela, quite a quiet race for him as the runners from Tech 1 Racing dropped off his tail. Dorian Boccolacci was 2nd at the start of today, may have just dropped back to 3rd. Very close. Sasha Fenestraz 6th, and then you can see 20 seconds down to 12th place, covering Bartolomé Morecki. In fact, it includes 13th. And our 2 newcomers in 15th place, Marcus Armstrong from New Zealand, very strong run and great overtaking around Enrique Chavez, and Alexander Vartanyan. He got monstered by compatriots Alexei Korniov and Nikita Trotsky, but his maiden race in this championship safely under his belt. And Kasper Larsen, as you can see, didn't make it all the way to the finish. We lost Nurburgring Serkan and Julia Pankovic on the opening lap, but it was a really strong acceleration. It looks as though Lando Norris had done enough to take the first position down in the first corner, but Robert Schwarzman just kept on coming and a dive down the inside, and not wanting to risk a bent wing. Our race leader, our race challenger, our pole starter, Lando Norris, tucked in behind into 2nd place. It was very exciting further back, and in the heart of the action was Lawrence Hur on his home race, but we had the safety car because down at the hairpin we had the unfortunate Nurses Isakian out of the race, spun and stalled. The car had to be removed, and then once we got going again, almost a replay of the opening corner of the opening lap, with Lando Norris trying to go the whole way around the outside of Robert Schwarzman down through turn 1, but the track ran out and Schwarzman kept his nose in front. Down at the tail of the field, Alexander Vartanyan joining a great run on his debut in the championship. The middle order was very exciting as well. And then we had Lawrence Hoare on his home race. He ended up down in 19th position, but that spin put him down to the tail of the regular runners. Dorian Boccolacci and his teammate Sasha Fenestraz running 5th and 6th. You just saw Fenestraz locking up there, but there was nothing they could do about the 4 cars ahead of them, and many a driver, including Fenestraz there, using a little bit of a wide line on the exit of turn 4, trying to get an advantage down the hill. And this, up from New Zealand, on his race debut, the white entry of Marcus Armstrong, trying to get it right past Enrique Chavez. It didn't work then, but it did later in the race. And then Norris got closer and closer to Schwartzman. They were trading intense. Let's go around the outside with Marcus Armstrong. The previous lap, it didn't work. He ended up with 2 wheels on the grass. That time it did. And up he moved into 15th place. And then locking up on the final lap was Lando Norris, but he couldn't do anything down at the Dunlop Kara. Couldn't catch up again. And Robert Schwartzman punching the air, delighted with his maiden victory in the Formula Renault Northern European Cup. 17 yesterday and delighted today. So, another one of those tomorrow, please. And that was some great racing. The rain held off. In fact, the sky is now turning blue again as the sun comes back out. But the net result, of course, is victory for Robert Schwartzman. And delighted there. You can see Schwartzman. A pat on the back and a gentle handshake to his teammate Lando Norris, who would have loved the 30 points, but for Robert Schwartzman, this is his big day. That's his first victory at this level, and I must say, the way he held off Lando Norris, you feel it's going to be far from his last. Great helmet design too, very, very flamboyant, gold with all the swirls. And we're looking forward for an interview with the winner. He'll be coming very, very soon indeed. So let's go down, interview with the winner.
Hey, really well done. This is your first victory at this level. You must feel great.
Yeah, I'm really happy with this result. Finally, I won after all this work we done with the team. It was a tough race for me, to be honest, because at the beginning, Lando was really close to me. He was trying to overtake me. Then comes the safety car, and like the situation was more free for me. I could think about the race, the strategy, the speed I should take. Then I made a little gap on Lando and was whole race like going with this similar gap. Only at the last laps I struggled with my front right tire. I flat spotted. I did a mistake in one corner, and and then Lando catch me a little bit. And the last laps was a bit nervous for me. I was like looking in the mirrors, hoping like I had a little bit of gap. And in the last corner, Lando tried to make a move, but I saw it, so I make a little bit longer braking so I could keep up the speed, and at the end of the day, it was really good race thanks to the team.
Well, congratulations. Go enjoy your well-deserved podium.
Thank you.
Well, that was Robert Schwartzman. What an impressive young man. He had the measure of that race, and certainly he was fully aware, and I like very much what he said about just thinking Lando's going to make a dive at me at the final corner, so braking a little bit later just to leave the space. So he might just be just turned 17. He might look even considerably younger than that, but a very wise head on Robert Schwartzman's shoulders. So that's the first win, and going off to enjoy some celebrations, but not too many, of course. The second race comes tomorrow, but he'll very much remember the day after his 17th birthday as perhaps a turning point in career. He's been second before this season, but that's the big one. That's his first win at this level. There are our finishers. Lando Norris's car closest to us, and then behind the cars of Robert Schwartzman and Max Stefani, who started 4th on the grid, gained a position on the drag away from the grid, and held down 3rd place thereafter. Busy day here at the Nurburgring, and I think certainly as you look out around the circuit, conditions pretty much perfect for racing. We had a bit of oil down earlier, but that has all been cleared. A good race, and it didn't take too long during the safety car period for the 2 cars to be pulled off the circuit. Nurses Isakian's down at the Dunlop Kara. So for Lando Norris, he started the race 24 points clear, and of his closest challenger, Dorian Boccolacci, who finished in 5th, he's gained another 8 points. So for Boccolacci, who didn't qualify well down in 6th, it hasn't been a dream result for him. 1 more race here at the Nürburgring, then 3 in the final round at Hockenheim, the first weekend in October. And every time that Lando Norris can finish ahead of his championship challengers, it's a victory in its own right. In fact, such is his advantage at the moment. As long as he doesn't retire, then he will be doing a very good job. So out of the podium, here comes Max Stefani. Second place, Lando Norris, and let's see the expression. Oh yes, milking the applause, and rightly so. Robert Schwarzman, first win in the Formula Renault NEC. So drivers from Russia, Great Britain and Belgium out on the podium. So a quick blast of the Russian national anthem and a look of as the trophies are awarded. So that's all from the Formula Renault Northern European Cup. Just waiting. Max Stefani has his trophy. Slightly larger trophy for Lando Norris. He should be satisfied. And just waiting for the final trophy to be given, the largest one of all. One he'll always remember, Robert Schwarzman taking his first win at the Formula Renault NEC.